We continue to investigate the death of a woman in her northeast Calgary home. An autopsy by the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner is ongoing. However, the victim has been identified as Amanda Antoni, 31 of Calgary. Antoni's death remains classified as suspicious, pending the outcome of the autopsy, and the Homicide Unit continues to investigate this investigation. Officers arrived at Antoni's home in the 0 to 100 block of Castledale Way Northeast at approximately 3:45 p.m. on Monday. Alberta Health Services EMS were first on scene and called police after assessing the scene as suspicious. The victim's husband, who discovered her body in their home, is cooperating with investigators. There is no reported domestic history between the couple, and we had not been to this. The victim's husband, who discovered her body in their home, is cooperating with investigators. There is no reported domestic history between the couple, and we had not been called to the home in recent years. A motive for this death has yet to be determined, and investigators are now working with the service's Technological Crimes Section and Cybercrimes Unit to determine who the victim was in contact with prior to her death. I'll now take your questions.
We've been told that the scene was extremely suspicious. Can you give us was there signs of violence?
There were signs of a violent incident inside the residence, and coupled with the autopsy, which is ongoing with the medical examiner's office, we've deemed this death suspicious.
Does the public have any reason to be worried about their safety? You guys don't have a suspect in custody?
I think we should be concerned anytime we have a violent incident in our community. I think one thing to keep in mind that it's extremely rare that we do not have a connection between a victim and the person responsible in a homicide investigation. I think that everybody should be aware of any suspicious activity and report it to the Calgary Police Service. I can assure everyone that we're devoting sufficient resources to ensure that we conduct a complete and thorough investigation to identify the person responsible and hold them accountable.
So do you believe then it was a targeted attack?
We don't know yet. We're still early in the investigation, and we have a lot of questions to be answered, but we're keeping an open mind and looking at all possibilities, and of course, that'll be one of the possibilities that we're looking at. But again, to reiterate, it's very rare that we have an investigation where the victim and the person responsible are not connected.
Based on the press release, it seemed like you guys were completely ruling out Lee Antoni. Is that the case?
He's not a suspect at this time. He's fully cooperated with the investigation, and he has been interviewed by investigators.
When you say you're using cybercrimes, do you believe that she may have been in contact with somebody over the internet, social media?
So what we're doing is we know people are very active on social media. So we're looking into her background, her connections with people at work and in her private life, and anyone she's corresponded with over social media or on electronic devices to see if there's anybody who has information that may assist us with our investigation.
Is there anything missing from the house? Like, would it have been a robbery? Or
There's nothing that's been reported missing from the residence.
So did her husband say that he had arrived at the residence and found her body there?
Yeah, he arrived at the residence, found her body, and then contacted emergency services and Calgary Police.
So, and yet that's believable to you?
We've conducted an interview with her husband. He's been fully cooperative with the investigation and continues to do so.
Was there any forced entry into the home?
Because it's an ongoing investigation, I can't comment on that at this time.
When was the last time anyone saw her?
She was last spoken to Saturday evening. So we're working on a timeline involving her death, and that'll be in conjunction with the medical examiner's office and the autopsy.
Saturday?
Saturday evening.
So was her husband out of town?
He was out of town, and he returned home on Monday and then discovered her deceased. So he last spoke with her on Saturday evening.
When you say you haven't been called to the home in recent years, had you been called to
We have not been called to the home in regards to any domestic complaint.
Any-
And I'm not aware of any calls to the house.
Okay.
It was an unrelated, completely unrelated matter.
Okay.
So this very much sounds like a homicide.
It's being treated as suspicious death, based on what we found at the scene and the autopsy and interviews with family and friends. We're treating it as suspicious at this time.
The involvement of the cyber and tech crimes unit, is that unusual for investigators?
No, in fact, it's very common. People are in possession of phones and computers and iPods, which they communicate regularly, and we just want to ensure that we don't miss anything. So that's why we're conducting an examination of all her electronic devices to see if we can identify anybody who may have information that will assist us with the investigation.
So if she was last seen or spoken to?
She was last spoken to Saturday.
Spoken to on Saturday, do you guys have an approximate time of death? Did it happen Sunday?
That's what we're working on. We're working on a timeline with the medical examiner's office, and that'll be part of our investigation.
So you have a 2 to 3 day gap in there between the time she was found
And when she was last
time
spoken to,
seen.
yes.
And just to be clear, there's no working description of anyone who was at the home, any person of interest, any car or anything like that?
Nothing that we have at this point in the investigation.